blind to the worlds within us, waiting to be born.
Listening back to the album now after 11 years is kind of, we have always realized the impact now that it has of the scene, but listening back to it is actually, it's scary in one way. It's like being back in a situation where we were mixing it, but fortunately it sounds good still. I mean, it's very clean, everything, so I think when we did it, we were really focused on keeping everything clean, so no mistakes were hidden underneath. So it's actually safe to put up the vocals, just the vocals, and I don't have to run out of the room when they do that. I think it's the test of time quite good.
Within us, waiting to be born.
I guess the intro was you had contact with this guy, right?
Yeah, I really don't remember, but I think it was the first time I just heard about him, like rumors, And like I said before, it's like I asked Thomas his idea of the album. He said industrial, so we hired this guy to like do an industrial sound for us, and he went up to the studio and had this sampler, and I don't remember what we recorded, but it's always like, maybe take a frying pan and you take a dildo and hit the frying pan and he sample that, and then he do a lot of bullshit in his sampler, and then the sound show up,
Yeah. It's quite a character, quite a scary sound there he came up with.
Yeah.
Because he kind of fitted in the whole idea as well, because he's kind of manic, as we were.
Yeah.
So he gave his heart to it, and I think it shines through that it's kind of like, because he heard some songs of the album before, so he knew how it would blend with the music, and then
and we have a speech there also.
The voiceover, yeah.
Yeah, we have from the beginning we was planning to have film samples.
Yeah.
But the record company said no, you cannot use it because to buy the rights from the film company is very expensive. So we have to do our own samples. And my grandma had an old, like a vinyl player, like a furniture. And in that I find an old microphone that looking like a shell. And that microphone we used, it was really crappy microphone. So you have to hold it in a special way to get rid of the most of the ground problem. It was a lot of hum and so on. So we used that one.
Yeah.
We can play that solo here.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, maybe start with the intro. Or
Yeah.
We are blind. Waiting.
And then the song starts. There is this speech, or what you say.
We are blind to the worlds within us, waiting to be born.
Yeah.
It's pretty compressed. Like
No, it's actually how
the mic sounds.
How the mic sounds.
We are blind to the worlds within us, waiting to be born.
Now, I have this memory of that you're kind of like against the voiceover, like the talk for a while. Like it was my idea because I'm the lyrical freak, so I wanted to get as much lyrics in there as possible, even if there were no vocals. But we kind of made an agreement there that was okay, right? But it's kind of like been the bottom line of the album. Those two lines is kind of like lyrically really says it all before it hits. It's like being blind to the worlds within, and then the world's open and the song crashes in. Something like that. That's kind of like the idea. But listening back to that intro, it's kind of really scary sounds. It's not like something is ripped apart.
Yeah.
Basically, we had like the whole concept finished. That how we wanted the album to be. But as I said before, we had like the idea of a classic album, and the classic album always has different parts in it.
We needed an opener.
Yeah, basically a song that was written as an opener. We needed a battery like Metallica had, and Angel of Death. We needed one of those songs. And it's quite funny. I mean, because talking with Anders nowadays, it's like he thinks it's the worst song on the album, basically. but I think we all agree that it fills the purpose as an opener more than a song as itself. But I mean, you can always argue about like which song is best and all. But I say that it works perfectly as an opener when it's followed by Slaughter of the Soul, the title track. The way it follows it, like directly, hits directly afterwards as well. So it makes more sense. But it's definitely a catchy riff, the first riff. So I mean, and it sets like this kind of the general idea of an At the Gates riff is portrayed in the first riff. So I think that's why people remember it too.
For me, this album was actually a breakthrough, like a producer. So it gave me a lot of work. So been a very good income.
I guess it was a really important album for you.
Yeah, I realized that quite 1 year after the album was released, I get a lot of phone calls from around the world that people want to come and do albums and stuff. And I don't know how many times bands have been saying we want to sound like that, like the Slaughter of the Soul. And the only answer I have is in that case is like join the band, because it's a really good, good work from the musicians. Adrian was on his top, and everybody performed really, really well.
Basically, I mean, you don't want to go through that again. The same military discipline that you had with us.
I have done it sometimes after that, but
it's because that's why it's clean. Still, I think we can go through the channels and listen to it, and
I remember stuff like
no junk comes up.
Yeah, when it's like we're recording drums, I was in discussion with Anders, the guitarist, because he was so focused that all drums should be totally perfect. And I was like, yeah, but this is a perfect take except a small bass drum mistake. And everything was recorded analog, so it was not possible to punch in and punch out as you can do today with digital stuff. And we had a discussion about, but I like the feeling in this take. And he was like, but it's not 100% perfect. So it was like, okay, Adrian was smelling like a dressing room for 10 hockey teams in the recording studio, because Adrian was working really hard. I think he drank 10 liters of water every day.
Usually drum takes, if you listen to drum takes 10 years afterwards, you usually hear like, the stick hitting the side of the snare or something somewhere on one take, but not on this album.
No.
That's why it's a bit scary almost.
Yeah. Every hit, perfect. I had a long talk. This talk was like every time I met Adrian, the drummer, because to make the snare drum to sound hard every time you hit it. So I recommended him to get 2 hi-hats, but he didn't want to do it. He wanted to have the hi-hat there. So he developed a technique that, because you have your arm like that on a hi-hat and there on a snare drum, so you cannot get up the arm because the other arm is in the way. So he developed a technique where he looks like a rubber man, like this, when he was playing drums. So he can, every time he hit on the snare drum, he lift that arm up here until you get space to hit the snare drum.
Yeah. But wasn't that a kind of agreement that, when he was doing the fast Slayer beat, even like the faster stuff, his arm should be like at his shoulder on the snare.
Yeah.
Every beat. So there was like delivery.
Hard every time. Hard hitting.
All the time.
The snare drum is not especially good sounding, but we liked it then.
Yeah, there was a video film for Blinded by Fear. Probably more of a record company decision than our decision, I think, which song. But I mean, judging from what happened, I think it was probably a good decision from the record company. I mean, the word got spread, and maybe like our least favorite tracks are the hit tracks. I don't know. If musicians get to choose, you always end up having the most like intricate parts, and this is great playing on this track, let's have that one, but no one understands it. So Blind by Fear is more a direct hit.
I guess the slaughter riff, this one.
I guess the Go has kind of like we didn't have it when we went to the studio. It was a studio invention for sure. Kind of like we wanted to give it a bit more hardcore color, you know.
I think it actually was my idea. That's we
Yeah.
come up with that Go, and we did a fucking lot of takes, at
Yeah.
least 40, you know, to make it right. Go, you know.
It's like the Angel of Death scream, like Tom Araya says he nailed on the second take, whatever. But
Yeah.
I still don't believe that. But as I said, like before, when we talked about the album, how it's kind of like everything was needed to be so precise. You could basically solo everything, and it still comes out clear and with no, and nothing is hidden underneath. But here we have the vocals like just for a short while, but they're totally naked, and it needs to be
Yeah.
perfect. So Fredrik got us under the whip on that one too, and I had to. I mean, you feel like a moron when you stand there and go once again, go.
Yeah. And
But you know,
it's a longer one, and all with high pitch, blah blah blah. All that, you know.
and
It's like
and the
I don't like that, and you know, you're not perfect in time now. We you have to be tight because we couldn't move it. So. We had a guest solo guy on the album. He's called Andy Earache, and I know that the guitarist and everybody in the band was a big fan of his playing, and so he was actually working as a guitar technician at a music store, and I was like, I was also been working there. So I didn't realize that he was like the famous guitar player because he was like a working mate. So I was like, oh. So I told him we are doing an album in the studio, and the guys in the band really likes your playing, and wonder if you want to do a guest solo. And he was like, yeah, I want to listen to the stuff and so on. So he listened to the stuff and he really liked it, and he said, yes, I really want to do this solo here on this album. And he came to the studio and asked the musician to leave.
Yeah, we had to
to
go.
be alone.
We had to go to the recreational area of the studio.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not a rock star thing
No,
for
no,
him.
no.
It was like he was totally mellow about it. But I do that too when I do vocals. Sometimes I send away the band. They can be there when I do the second or third song, but not the first one. I want to start myself, and probably the same thing. There was no like, we didn't feel weird about it. But I remember like he went in the studio with his guitar, and Fredrik and him recorded the solo.
Yeah.
Then when he left, we could go and listen to it. But
Yeah, but he's a really cool and friendly guy.
yeah, but there was this it's double as well. It's like a harmony on
Yeah,
top
Harman,
of it.
yeah.
And at the time we were like, it's totally impossible to play that. But I mean, after after a year or so, Anders was playing it too. So,
Yeah.
but it's an amazing guitar work, and being the King Diamond fans we are, so it's really, really fun to have him there.
Maybe
So-
we should listen to it.
We can take the part. Let's see. I have to kolla. Maybe he do some really cool stuff with the whammy
Yeah.
bar on the guitar. It's like hits things like I never heard that in my life before. You can take that solo if it's okay with you, Anders. Thank you. Not perfect, but it's good.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah. The guitar sound, I think it's a very good guitar sound. And the thing is, like with the guitar sound, was like Anders. He had this homemade cabinet with two 10-inch speakers and two 12-inch speakers, and two of them was broken.
Yeah.
It's like totally fucked up.
He had built it together with his dad.
Yeah,
In the
correct.
basement.
Yeah. It's heavy and.
Remember, we
ugly.
didn't have any money.
Yeah, and he had this old PV Supreme 160 top, and we're using the pedal Metal Zone that everybody hates, and we was cranking that like for 2 days, and I used all microphones I had, but it ended up with 4 normal SM57s. But it's like, it's a very weird setup. Nobody have that setup. It's the one of the kind. And I think it sounds really good.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
And it's tuned to B also.
Yeah.
It's a very low tuned, heavy strings. And he had this Ibanez guitar, was really ugly.
yeah. But I guess, like, you know, we tested a lot of speakers and a lot of heads as well, a lot of pedals before we settled on this. So it was a hard work, you know, trying to figure out which way to go. 'Cause once again, it was kind of like the focus thing. We didn't want to just rush it. So.
But I remember we set up all mics I had in the studio
Yeah.
on this fucking cabinet and tried combination, and just end up with always with this SM57. So it's like,
And it's, I mean, a guitar sound is also down to the playing a lot.
yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, you could probably have the same setup as Anders, exactly like down to every knob on the distortion pedal, but still don't get the sound, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very much down to the playing of Anders and Martin to like the preciseness of it, the picking. You know, it doesn't have to be all shred like, but the picking is really, really important.
The difference in mine and Anders playing is I would do a riff like this. Just basic straight riffing, and whereas Anders would do it like this. Or something like that, which I can't hold up for very long. So on those kinds of riffs, it's mostly Anders who does all the guitars, and on other types of riffs, I do all the guitars. I guess typical for the At the Gate sound is the triplets of the Slayer beat, which is like this, for example. Those kinds of riffs.
Kind of makes a rhythm within the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of songs that are kind of different instrumental numbers.
Yeah.
Tell us about.
Oh, we have one of the songs we have a guest drummer.
Yeah. should we do that one? Do you have it here?
Yeah. No, actually, I sold it on eBay.
Yeah. As I said before, like with Adrian, when he did his drum tracks, he had like 7 days to do it, or 5 days or something, and then
5 days. 2 days sound check, 5 days recording.
yeah, and then he had to be at work for his new job, and he was really stressed and like put so much energy into it. And then when it came to this acoustic song, we came up with this, like, some ideas are like brainstorming in the studio kind of ideas, and I don't know, was your idea to have this phaser drum?
Yeah, we want to have some weird drums, and so I didn't have so many effects then, so I actually recorded the drums with the effect on, so it's impossible to change. So,
Which is like Yeah.
I don't know if it was a good move, but I had to find the song here. Hold on.
Yeah. There you go.
And of some reason, I choose to record the drums as mono, one microphone. What's that?
That's the bass. Yeah. But it's Anders playing the drums here because Adrian couldn't. It was impossible for him to get out of this work to do another drum take. So we kind of like, you know, who's the best drummer of the rest of the band? Let Anders do it. It's quite basic drums, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, but I didn't. We didn't. Here, I also removed the drums from the studio, so I had an old Ludwig drum kit with like a 28-inch bass drum, and we did that with that one. I used an old Neumann microphone and this Roland flanger.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to be lucky, I guess. You know, like with this, like recording the drums with the effect on, and it's like, you know, it's quite crazy. But sometimes you just have to be lucky, and you know. It's professionals get lucky, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite fun with Anders drumming there. It's not as clear on the record. Like you could, if you listen closely, you can hear the drums. But it gives a bit more of a feel to an acoustic song. I think, you know, this weird drum sound in the background.
This on this album, we want this voice like growing up.
Yeah.
On the demo, it was like, we wanted to sound like we're coming from a room, you know, and going in. And during that time, it was a little bit hard, you know. There was no automation and stuff like that. So
I actually had,
Yeah, he had to run in the studio. I have like a long recording studio. So I put the microphone. He was there, and then he ran, screaming. But
it was on the Suicide Nation, that part where it goes suicide, and gets higher and higher.
Yeah.
So it's actually like, you know, it must have looked funny.
Yeah. And
running
you
across
couldn't
the
have
studio
any
floor,
shoes on and nothing because
screaming suicide at the top of my voice.
Yeah, the foots are too loud. You have to take off the shoes and like run slowly. It's like
I mean, there's a lot of things that you actually, you know, it would be so fun to actually be able to see it again.
Yeah,
some parts of the recording process,
like your haircut you have.
Like the haircut, yeah.
You had like really long dreadlocks, and in there was like pearls. So every time he turned his head like that, all of them was sort of flying, and I was always the closest guy. So I was like, so this pearls was all over the studio because they broke when they hit my head. I was like, and it hits like telephones, everything.
Shouldn't
And
be
you
so close to me.
get stuck in guitars.
Oh, God. You can say the cover is done by my friend Christian Wåhlin. We played in the band before at the Gates, so it's quite cool that he went on to do this cover for us. I think we suggested to Earache that we wanted to use him because he had done a lot of death metal covers and stuff before, but we felt as we lived close to him, we could actually have some influence and, you know, direct him from, you know, where we wanted to fit the lyrical concept of the album. And it worked out really cool. I mean, he came up with a lot of ideas by himself, but basically I gave him all the lyrics, and he had, you know, some rehearsal tapes of the songs, and also visited the studio, and then we went out just basically bought like shitloads of Guns and Ammo magazines and went for it. I think it's his, like, basically his idea to put the icon in there with Jesus. Basically really just strong picture with like guns and Jesus, which kind of like, you know, just ties the whole dark theme of the album together. But most of the ideas probably come from him anyway, but it was really cool to actually, you know, because he lived like 5 minutes away from me, so I can actually go over there like a 5-minute bus ride and check out what he was doing and stressing him about it. And he also did the metal finish of the logo as well, the bronze one. So it was really cool to work together with him as well, you know, being an old friend and everything. So not just giving it away to someone that didn't really have a clue or anything and didn't know what to expect, but this time around we wanted everything as well to be perfect. So I'm really happy how it came out. I mean, I know some of the guys. I know Jonas for once think it's too brown. Well, it is brown, but I kind of kind of makes it stand out a bit too. I think. Well, the story of the Flames of the End is kind of basically Anders is a big horror movie fan. He's got a huge collection of horror movies at home, and his interest was like so big that he actually started recording his own B horror movies at home.
C maybe.
Maybe C or Z, I don't know, but
the alphabet isn't enough.
And then he started doing soundtracks to them as well at home, like on his portable recording machine. And this one is actually originally a soundtrack to the movie Day of Blood.
Which is like the worst movie ever. And we should put it on as an extra on this.
Yeah, you should actually try to get the master tapes of that one. So originally it's just keyboards and drum machine for this song, and then I think it was my idea, Frederick, to get the guitars on there on top of it. I think so, but it was then we got this crazy feedback, which is like impossible to recreate, I guess. So it's kind of like blends together, and like a closer of the album, I think it's perfect because it's got, as I said before, I kind of like push lyrics into everything. So it's accompanied by a poem that you could read while listening to it. Quite ambitious, but it's originally a soundtrack from a horror movie.
We used to close shows with this for a while, didn't we?
Yeah, that's an outro of the set.
This is like from his portable recording studio. So there's only 2 tracks, drums and keyboards and everything on 2 tracks. And we added up bass. Yeah.
So it's quite pretty much finished when we went into the studio. She said, like, and then the only part we really put on it was, like you say, like the bass and then the guitar sound.
You feel the horror?
Day of Blood. Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't remember if it was his idea or if he forced him to use it. I can't really remember, but it's kind of like, we kind of felt it had the same machine mode as the rest of the album. It's perfect. I'm gonna turn up the feedback when it comes. And you have better memory than me of the feedback section. It's quite beautiful.
You have to make that sound. You hold in notes and then you press play and record at the same time, so the tape machine starts up. So get its.
And Tombed uses that quite a lot on the early recordings as well. You got the sunlight. Pew! There was actually some wrestling going on while the feedback was created, right?
Tell us about the wrestling.
But to get that really crazy sound. Fredrik will tell you the story. It's quite disturbing sound. Beautiful.
Here the wrestling starts.
I can picture it because I was like standing in the mixing desk watching Fredrik and Anders wrestle in front of the.
Virtually attacking Anders with a tape recorder.
Yeah, it was quite fun. I mean, I still have these pictures from these sessions, but there was a portable tape recorder used, right?
Yeah.
That you put the signal through, like recorded the guitars and put the signal back through the tape recorder.
Yeah,
in
and
front
send
of
it into the guitar pickups. Again.
Yeah. It's quite crazy.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And then I like the way kind of like, you know, the actual music fades out while the feedback fades up on the mix. So at the end you're left with just crazy feedback.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Can't get enough of feedback. I mean, because the rest of the album is so clinical. So
Yeah.
it's awesome to have that total noise finish to it. Well, the breakup of At the Gates came first as a surprise to everyone involved, I guess. Basically, Anders gave me a call, like, say a week after the last show we did at a festival in Sweden. Just saying he didn't have the energy anymore and was tired of touring, tired of the hard work, and didn't think that we could top the last album. And basically, the rest of the band, for a week or so, tried to figure out different solutions to the problem. You know, trying out other guitarists for Anders' spot, but I guess in the end we kind of figured that like Anders wrote so much of the music, was such a big part of the sound that it was like unfair towards him and the rest of the band to continue without him. And as Anders and Jonas are twins, kind of like Jonas felt it more than the rest of the band, so it was a hard decision to do, but we kind of like felt it was the only natural thing to not do it anymore. You have to remember that we were still very, very young. We're like between 21 and 23. And for us, like from the start of the band until Soul of a Soul had been kind of like slow as it is for most death metal bands, like hard work, like one small European tour every year, kind of just doing the works. And all of a sudden when Slaughter came out, like everything happened at once, like 5 tours straight and tons of interviews and more success basically and more pressure. So I mean, if it would happen today when we're all more mature, we would probably be a totally different situation, I guess. You know, what we learned though is like, you know, from sticking to the decision, it's like we still, you know, we're still in contact. We still, you know, we still work together. You know, we still have this thing that we did together that we are proud of as a team, and that kind of there's still a special bond between us, which is kind of like will always be there, I guess. You know, everybody continued playing afterwards. Anders, Jonas, and Adrian started playing with the Haunted. Adrian left after a couple of years and joined Cradle of Filth, where he's currently active. Martin is playing in his 2 bands, one prog rock and one punk rock band. And I sing for The Great Deceiver and Dysphere, and I've been fronting a lot of other projects along the way. It was a big void, like the first year was really hard, but then you kind of like start filling it up with your own personal stuff, you know. It's kind of like hard being, you know, with such a strong bond to what you were doing, you know, always being Thomas from At the Gates, and all of a sudden just being Thomas was a hard, you know, transition period, I would say, you know, but took a while to get back on the feet after that one, but in the end I think it's all for the better, because kind of like left the legacy intact in a way with the album as it is and the history.